Hello, welcome back everyone to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. My name is Heike and today we are talking about Defender for Cloud Apps. And I have Keith with me, and actually today we are looking into deployment steps and all the values that you get out of these little steps that you can take. And Keith, please introduce yourself.
Hey, Heike. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Keith Fleming. I'm a senior product manager on the Defender for Cloud Apps customer experience engineering team. So my focus is on adoption and helping customers, make the most out of our product. So excited to be here today.
Yes, and that's why we have you here on the show today. I remember you wrote a blog, and we will put a link for people into this window here so they can actually read the blog as well. But this blog talks about simple steps for deploying or configuring certain things in Defender for Cloud Apps. And then we just don't want to go through the blog, but also talk about the value that someone immediately gets when they do these things. Is this right?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, the blog was meant to show just how simple it is to be able to gain value with Defender for Cloud Apps, because we found that there are, really 4 simple steps that you can go through in a couple of clicks and be able to start getting value immediately without the need for deployment of any agents, just to be able to better protect your SaaS environments.
Can we quickly summarize the 4 things before we then go one after the other in the details?
Yeah, sure. So the first step is being able to connect your SaaS applications. So what we find is that we offer many different app connectors, but the easiest ones to connect are Office and Azure. So with both of those connectors, it's a couple of clicks from the deployment screen. You go into Settings and Defender for Cloud Apps, and then add the app connectors, and you just turn it on, and then we start ingesting those signals. So that is step one. Step 2 is going to be, basically doing the same thing for, your third-party app connector. So if you have app connector or SaaS applications that are being used, such as ServiceNow or Salesforce, you can go in and also connect those as well. Now, there are a few more steps to those, so we don't detail them out in the blog, but most of them are pretty straightforward. Number 3 is just being able to take the data that you're getting from Defender for Endpoint and just turning on Discovery, so that way you can enable Shadow IT with just a couple of clicks. Then the fourth and final part that we have for our blog was the actual enforcement. So this would be the enabling blocking within Defender for Endpoint based on the signals that we're getting from Defender for Cloud Apps.
It's my favorite because I was still in the marketing team for Defender for Endpoint when actually that functionality came out, and I still love it so much. Okay, so now let's hop in the portal and let's see how that looks like.
So we're going to start from the Microsoft 365 Defender portal. As everyone probably knows, we recently moved into the M365 Defender portal. So here on the left-hand menu, we're going to go to Settings, and then we're going to go to Cloud Apps.
And just so everybody knows, we already set this up. So don't be surprised that the connectors are already here, but we just want to go and look into the settings, what was configured. But yeah, this is not a fresh tenant, that's a demo tenant.
Absolutely. And here you can see what you would normally see in a brand new tenant. If you click on Connect an App, you're going to see Microsoft 365 here, and then you can just go in and connect it. So what we'll do is, this is essentially the same screen though. So I'm going to just go ahead and open up the settings here to this. And you would check each of these individual boxes for the different events that you want to ingest, and then just connect to Office 365. And that's really all there is to it. And at this point, you've already got Office 365 connected.
Yes, and earlier it was so quick that I even missed it. So, okay, so now this is connected. What do people get out of this now?
There are a couple of things that you're going to get whenever you light up the Office 365 connector. So the first thing is you're going to get, the built-in threat protection alerts are going to be here. Those are going to appear within the incidents page of the M365 Defender, and they'll be alongside all the rest of your XDR workloads. So these incidents will also be correlated across your different services. So you get, multi-stage incidents. There are many out-of-the-box threat protection alerts that we offer, such as impossible travel that will show users that can't be in two locations at once. There are other alerts that talk about suspicious inbox manipulation. There's just a whole host of different threat protection alerts.
So help me understand, Keith. So even if you have Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, you have to use that connector to get the impossible travel and to get alerts in general, or like there's no alerts without connecting to that Office 365 connector?
There are alerts that come from identity protection automatically, but then what we do is we also provide a broader view across multiple SaaS applications. So not only is it connecting Office 365, but then we can also correlate those impossible travel events across multiple SaaS services. So if we see activity within ServiceNow and then we see activity within Office, we can trigger those types of alerts. And then we also provide, rich built-in threat protection alerts that you don't necessarily get out of the box for some of our other services, where we can look for, like I said, suspicious inbox manipulation is a great one because business email compromise is a huge thing we're running into these days. So just to name a few, and then like I said, we have many others as well too that we can share here as well with the
Okay, awesome. So first is you get more alerts, and of course they're part of the M365D incident. What's the next value that people get from a almost single click?
Yeah, so the other thing that you're going to get is the ability to hunt across different events within the Cloud App Events table in M365 Defender Advanced Hunting. So not only are you able to see the data and slice it and dice it any way that you want to, but then you can correlate that data across multiple sources too. So like here's a query that I've written, for example, and this allows us to take the mail items accessed and then correlate that with the data that we get from Exchange to actually see what mail items were accessed. So I'm able to see, when it was sent, user agent, and then other really important details too here in this case, such as the network message ID, where it was at in the mailbox, and then even the subject and the sender or from address. So advanced hunting is a really, really powerful capability that provides a lot of ability for you to see things just in a way that makes sense to you within the scope of your investigation.
Okay, so advanced hunting is one of your favorites, but there is more.
Yeah, absolutely. And for individuals who may not be really familiar with Kusto or KQL, because that can be a little bit more advanced, we also offer the activity logs too, which also correlates the data into a single place where it's easily searchable. So from here, we're looking at the same data. And as you can see here, not only do I have Microsoft 365 details, but I've also got details from other app connectors that you connect. So it provides it all in a single location, correlated so you can, for instance, see what this user did across not only Office, but then also other apps that are connected too. So if they're using ServiceNow, Salesforce, whatever it may be, you get a very, very broad perspective on what people are doing. And it's all within the same schema too, which is really powerful because you can understand specifically, you can really get a full view of like what a user is doing end to end on all of your connected SaaS applications.
Okay, Keith. So we had activity logs. We saw advanced hunting, which comes with threat protection. We can correlate, of course, across different signals from other workloads. And what else did I miss?
Yeah, the last one was also something that you've also had on your show before too, which is SaaS Security Posture Management, which is a new capability that we're continuing to expand. So when you connect your third-party SaaS applications, then you'll be able to go within the portal to Secure Score and then just filter for those recommendations from here, and you'll be able to see them all in a single place alongside everything else. That happens with all your third-party app connectors. You can check the roadmap for that.
Okay, so what are some common third-party applications that we see with customers?
Absolutely. Let's take a look. It's actually in the same place that we were at earlier. So if we go to Settings and then Cloud Applications, and then we'll go to App Connectors. And I'll just click the drop down, and this is the list of all the current app connectors that we have. Now, it is important to note that with each different cloud service, there are some different requirements. So you may need to create a service account, or you can consult the documentation on that. We have everything well documented. And generally, you'll just need to create a service account with the proper permissions, then we can start ingesting the activity data and then any other supported things that we do in those individual app connectors.
Okay, so and now in our case, which one are we getting?
Yeah, so like for instance, if we wanted to look ServiceNow, so this is one that we actually just came up with for SaaS security posture management, Salesforce as well. So you would just enter the instance name and then provide the details based on what's in the requirements for each individual app connector. So in this case, you can do an OAuth token, or you can use a username and password to connect that. And like as I said, each individual application or SaaS application is going to be a little different. So you definitely need to look at those individually to know what the requirements are going to be.
Okay, which means then usually probably you look, you just came from the secure score, you check out what's missing, and then you configure that, and then you can see in the secure score changes to that, or is that not part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to the other cool stuff like advanced hunting and activity logs, you also get the SaaS security posture management as well too. So we're going to provide recommendations on misconfigurations within each SaaS application that need to be remediated to better improve your security posture.
And that's where SSPM comes in,
Absolutely.
and that's
Yeah,
the other episode. Wonderful. Good. So, Keith, and now we are going to talk about one of my favorites, which is the integration with Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, which allows customers to look at the traffic without using a proxy or an agent on the box. Explain, how is that working?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a direct integration with Defender for Endpoint, and like the Office connector, it's just a really simple process to enable with a couple of clicks in the portal. We do also have other integrations with other partners such as Zscaler, and then we can also ingest information via a log collector. But Defender for Endpoint is by far the easiest because you can just turn it on directly in the same portal where Defender for Cloud Apps lives today.
It's not just easier, it also, I think, adds a lot of value to the usage of Defender for Cloud Apps. Let's walk us through it.
Absolutely. So once again, we're going to go back to settings within Microsoft 365 Defender. And this time we're going to go to endpoints. And within endpoints, we're going to scroll down to the option for Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps, and it's really as simple as toggling the switch on. So in this tenant, it's actually already turned on, so we're already ingesting the data, but the only thing you need to do to enable us to be able to see that data and then help you understand what applications are being used within your environment, just simply toggling that switch on and then saving the preference.
Perfect. And then how do I see that this is working?
Yeah. So for that, it's all going to be available within the Cloud Discovery dashboard. So, and it's all within the same place. I'm just going to navigate directly from settings, and I'm just going to go over here to Cloud Discovery. And in this one, you can see that the data is actually here. So I've selected my Windows 10 endpoint stream. You can see in this case, this is a small demo tenant, so there's not a lot of data. But in really large organizations, you would see thousands of applications, thousands of IPs and users as well. And then you're going to be able to navigate between all the different data that you want to look at, if it's discovered apps or IP addresses or users or devices. But yeah, in this case, you're able to see it and then slice this data however you would like to better understand what's being used in your environment.
So this is basically discovered apps is all the apps that someone accessed from the endpoints.
Absolutely. We maintain a catalog of around 30,000 SaaS applications that are updated by analysts periodically. And we track those, we add them to the catalog, and then we have a bunch of different risk scores, so you're able to understand, for instance, if you're a healthcare organization, is the application HIPAA compliance, and then you can slice and dice those any way that you want to. But what happens on the back end of this is Defender for Endpoint, once you turn that toggle on, it sends the data to us with the URL and the IP address, and we look for that and match it to our Cloud App Catalog and then display it for you in the console. So that way you get a very rich idea of what's in use from a shadow IT perspective, and what applications are being used by your end users.
Do I see which apps have been used? Like what is coming from Defender for Endpoint stream, or what is coming through a proxy, or the regular Defender for Cloud Apps? Like, do I see anything?
Yes, so absolutely. In this case, I've got the report filtered only to show Windows endpoints, but then you can change this to any data source that you've got. So whether that's Windows endpoints that you want to see, or any other data that you're pulling in from a log collector, or if you configure another appliance to directly send us the data, such as Zscaler.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now I think there is a little bit more value than just seeing what these endpoints are doing, right? So what's next up?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first stage is knowing, right? We always want to know what applications are being used, and so that way IT teams can understand what needs to happen. So reviewing the data is the first scenario. But then when you're actually ready to act on it, we have some other really great integrations with Defender for Endpoints. So that way you can actually unsanction an application and block it directly from the console. So to turn that on, if you go to settings, and we'll go to Cloud Apps. And then within Cloud Apps, we want to go to the Defender for Endpoint Integration. Then we just want to turn that on. And then once you check the box to enable Enforce App Access, what that does is it then writes a custom indicator back to Defender for Endpoint based on that list of 30,000 app catalog that we have. We'll take those domains and add them to the custom indicators for you automatically. So that way you can block and unsanction directly from the Cloud Discovery console. So if, for instance, you find an app that you don't want to see, that's not sanctioned in your environment, and you want to actually block it from here, you just go in, there's the box to sanction, and then you just do unsanction. And then from unsanctioned, you save it. And then the app is going to be blocked on your endpoint with just a few clicks. So as you can see from end to end, it's really simple to enable the gathering of the data, and then also acting on enforcement of the data as well to block, especially with Defender for Endpoint. It's just super cool and easy for customers.
It's super smooth. There's nothing I remember how it was before. I don't even want to talk about it, but I think this is super simple because you can all do it from one console with a couple of clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Good. So, Keith, we talked about 4 easy things, right? So we had the Office connector, so we can have additional threat protection. We have the advanced hunting, different schemas, can correlate, have more data in the audit logs. And then we did a third-party app, in this case, to show that, of course, all the events are coming in, but there's also sometimes additional configuration needed. And we have SSPM that might help you to find out if some misconfiguration or it's not secure and you need to do additional configuration, right? Through the secure score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we turned on the integration with Defender for Endpoint. So now we had basically enabled the discover of those SaaS applications. And then the last toggle was to allow people, security admins, security analysts to unsanction, block applications directly from within the portal.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
Good. So I know that there is, of course, a lot of more value, but we wanted to highlight a few simple, easy steps that someone can take to immediately gain value out of their Defender for Cloud Apps deployment. So, Keith, is there anything else that you would like to highlight and mention before we actually end this show?
Yeah, I would just say, definitely go back and take a look at the blog that we wrote, because we also detailed this in our blog on simplifying SaaS security. Then we have additional use cases that we didn't even talk about today. These are just some of the really, really easy ones that you can do with a few clicks to start getting value within a couple of minutes. It doesn't need to be, a huge effort. Today the story is doing more with less. So we really feel that Defender for Cloud Apps allows you to do that and get some value immediately with your licensing.
Yes, and especially those steps are not impacting anything, like that you don't configure anything that is blocking something or disturbing something, right? So you gain the value immediately by receiving data, and then you can decide, such as here with Defender for Endpoint, to unsanctioned applications.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. The best part is there's no agents. There's nothing to install. It's all done directly in the portal with a few clicks. So no complicated deployments at all here.
Wonderful. So Keith, thank you so much for being my expert on today's episode. And thanks everyone for watching, and I hope I will see you next again. Bye.